Okay, let's begin. We are on 26b1, and we are in the right after the obligation of selling, right there. Says the Gemara like this. So we talked about Tanu Rabbanan. So we were talking about how when a person sees Eretz Israel, they see it in stages. There's certain cases where they could extend the tear, and there's certain cases where they would need to rip anew. Remember we talked about it? Depends on which one did you see first. Did you see Yerushalayim first and then the Beit HaMikdash? Did you see the Beit HaMikdash and then Yerushalayim? If you saw Yerushalayim first and then the Beit HaMikdash, you would need to tear another tear. If you saw the Beit HaMikdash first and then you saw Yerushalayim, then you could extend the tear. So we asked, how's that possible? The Gemara said, where you were undercover, when you got into Jerusalem and you saw. By the way, I was just thinking, what if a guy's just riding on a camel or in a carriage or whatever, and he fell asleep? He woke up and they were at the Beit HaMikdash. That would be an example. Okay, let's continue. Tanu Rabbanan. Tichilat kiriyah tefach. When a person starts to do the kiriyah, so the level of that is tefach is one hand breadth. So remember we said it's like a fist, maybe with a little bit of thumb at the top. If someone is extending it, then they would add 3 etzbaot, 3 fingers. This is what Rabbi Meir holds. Rabbi Yehuda says, Tichilat kiriyah, 3 etzbaot, the opposite. The beginning of tearing, how much is it? 3. So you're tearing 3 etzbaot, that's what you tear to start with. 3 fingers. V'tosefet kol shehu. Well, you have to add then afterwards, where there's a case of further mourning that's present, so then you add a little bit more, but that's only a drop more. Right? He doesn't even give a shi'ur for it. It's only kol shehu, the tiniest amount. Okay? Now, Amar Ula. Ula says, Halakha ki Rabbi Meir b'kiriyah. The halakha is like Rabbi Meir when it comes to tearing, which is that you have to do, how much do we tell a person to rip? Tefach. So the rip has to be at least that big. Halakha ki Rabbi Yehuda b'tosefet. Halakha is like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to extending. That once the baguette is torn already, that you could tear it only a little bit more. Okay? So we're talking about where a person had the mourning, they did the tearing, then there's someone else that he has to do mourning for. All right? So he's able to continue the what's it called? The tear. So again, what would the classic case of this be? Imagine a person, they have a abelut. Now they rip that shirt. What do we say about it? There's certain cases of abelut, you're not allowed to repair that shirt. Remember we talked about that? You could repair with certain kind of stitches, you can't really repair. Let's say the guy has the shirt, he didn't repair it. So when he now has another element of mourning, so he puts the shirt back on, he's already wearing a shirt of mourning now. It's got the tear. It's obvious to everyone that he's a mourner. He didn't mend it. Yeah, he didn't mend it. So what does he need to do in order to make this? He needs to tear, according to Rabbi Meir, 3 etzbaot. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, who we hold like, a little bit more. Because that makes this beged about this mourning. Okay, good. We learned similar to this. Rabbi Yossi says, Tichilat kiriyah tefach. Beginning of kiriyah is tefach v'tosefet kol shehu. When you have to add, in case where there's another person that passed away by the menan, they add kol shehu. So a person might think, oh, that's a great idea. I should keep the beged of mourning, in case I ever need it again. I'm thinking to myself, don't do that. Throw it out. You're expecting more mourning? Bad, right? But if the person did that, or if has v'shalom, it happened back to back, there was unfortunately a very sad situation. Just relatively recently, a person passed away, and the person's husband, they were so connected that the wife didn't even make it out of the shiva. On the last day of the shiva, the mother passed away. Very sad. Anyway, Tanu Rabbanan says the Braita, Amrulo met aviv. They told him that his father passed away. All right? Vikara. So what did he do? What's the halakha? He tears kiriyah. Met beno. Right? The morning passes. They finish the dime. They tell him met beno. His son passed away. Bar Menan. Yosif. So he added. Tachton mit ache. The bottom part that he added, you're able to sew up, you're able to fix, like we talked about. Elyon eno mitacheh. The top cannot be repaired. So how come Elyon eno mitacheh? How come you can't repair the top and you can repair the bottom?
Because the top you're going to see again.
No.
The bottom is covered.
No, remember the case here. How come you could fix the bottom but you can't fix the top? Says Rashi, the first narrow line on the page, right? Up here. Elyon eno me'en mitacheh, the top you can't fix. Shekirao halavi va'alimo. The beginning, the first tear was they told him his father passed. So that tear is for who? Father and mother. Father and mother, you can't fix it.
Right.
The second tear is for who? Al-beno. Al-beno, the halacha is you're able to fix. Right. So even though it's an extension of the first one, what's the Mishnah's chidush? That only the extension is al-beno. Right. We don't say that now the whole tear is al-beno, even though it overrode the first one. That one's for the father. That was eno mitacheh. Can't fix it. Met aviv, says the Gemara, what happens? The Mishnah Braita. Met aviv, what if the father passed away? Ve'osif, and he continued it. Okay? Excuse me. Met beno v'kara. What happens if it's the other way around? His son passed away, and he tore. Met aviv, then they found out afterwards his father passed. Ve'osif, and he added.
Fix the top.
Elyon mitacheh, tachton eno mitacheh. So you can fix the top, or you can have a hole at the bottom of the fix. Because the bottom is for the father. Met aviv, met imo, met achiv, met achoto. Let's say they told him, bar minan, that the whole family is gone. Father, mother, sister, brother. Like this would happen in crazy cases. First of all, happened on October 7th. Like this. Happened also in the Holocaust. Happens also sometimes you have people traveling in a plane crash, a big car accident, Hasu Shalom. Guy finds out, Aviv imo, achiv achoto. Korea kera echad lekulam. He makes one tear for all of them. In one, how long is that tear, would you say?
Good one.
Tefach, right? Like we said, minimum. Okay? Why? Why is he tearing one for all of them? How come he doesn't have? Because he found out about all of them in one shot. So he's in mourning. How much is mourning? Korea tefach. Even if it's multiple mournings.
Obviously tear it on the hard side because Aviv is in there.
Very good.
It wouldn't be on this side.
Very good. So technically, one would have thought that would be a reason why he should separate it. Let's see. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera Omer. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera says, Al kulan kera echad. For everyone, one tear. Al aviv alimo kera echad. But for his father and mother, another tear. Both sides.
Give him more respect.
So you tear here for one and here for
Here for one, here for the other.
Wow, that's two tears.
Yeah, now hold on a second. But the point of the Braita is still the same. Yeah. Let's say Bar Minan, someone lost 5 siblings, Bar Minan. One tear. Let's say someone lost father and mother. One tear. Because it's like a category. Okay? Now, Lefi she'en mosifin, why? What's the reason? En mosifin al kera aviv imo. Because you can't add on the kera, on the tear of aviv and imo, on his father. You can't add onto such a tear. So, what does that sound like that Rabbi Yehuda ben Tera just said? So he just told me that I can't add on that. So therefore, to use that for the brothers and sisters also doesn't work.
No,
That's what he's saying.
It's already higher level.
My ta'ama, so the Gemara says, okay, well, you told me a big hadush just now. You want to tell me what's the reason? Give me your reasoning. Because the reason, right, is going to inform the halakha. Really what the Gemara is asking is, fine, so a person can't add on the father and mother, no problem. So tear for the sister brother, and then add onto that for the parents. You can't add onto a kera of aviv imo for others, but you could add on the on the others for them. So tear for the siblings, and then add for the parents, and then make one rip. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, "Lefi she'enan betosefet," because the parents are not in the category of tosefet. They're not an added item. They're their own thing, primary, exactly. Enan betosefet. They're not. You can't. Kilomar. Look at the fourth line down, Rashi. Kilomar en bedin shemosif alehem. You can't, there's no halacha that you're going to add on to something else. They are the primaries, okay? Now, by the way.
But you do siblings on this side.
Yeah.
So, obviously you're more this side.
That's true.
So, if you add here, and you add to the siblings, it's not...
We're going to come to that soon, but you know what the answer is. So how could you tear one tear according to the first opinion? Where would you tear it?
You'd have to tear it on the higher level,
but then it's not the other one.
For the siblings, right.
So the answer would be that the higher level tear would fulfill your obligation for the lower level. Yeah. So So there's two ways. One is when they tell him about something that happened already, then he's tearing as soon as he's hearing. When the body's here in front of the person, then they tear after the burial.
There's a terrible story of the parents who buried their son 3 times because the moss didn't turn the body.
Shema Yisrael. Horrible. I quoted it yesterday in the class. They would tear one time because the fact that they found more material to bury doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that there's a new.
They're saying now it wasn't because no body was first 2 times.
Well, no, they tested it, so they know that it was the first body. They just don't know how much is missing. That was the problem. It's crazy, the whole item. Sick people. Hashem, you should take their revenge. Bring a justice to all these murderers. Anyway, so Amar Shemuel. So Shemuel says. Now, by the way, what we just saw sounds like is against the Braita that we saw before. If you remember, we saw Met Beno Veosif, or Met Aviv Veosif. Add more. This new opinion is really challenging that whole concept, because it's telling you, number one, parents can't be an add-on to something else, and also you can't add the other ones onto the parents. So he learns both ways. They have to be their own thing. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera is arguing really on the other Braita completely. Amar Shemuel says, Halakha Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. Halakha follows Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, which means that you can't do the extension that we read about in the Braita before, because the Halakha follows Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. It says that parents have to be in their own category. You can't add them onto something. You can't add anything onto them. By the way, hold on. We still have a purpose for the Braita. Where would be the purpose? Let's say a person lost their father and then lost their mother. Since both of them are in the category of parent, you could add on to the father rip for the mother, or vice versa, right? So you still have, even if we hold like a Yehuda ben Betera, we still have the first Braita. We still have adding as a concept, right? Or sibling, another sibling. Or sibling, son, sibling, right? Just not parent or anything else. Parent and anything else like oil and water.
Keep them in the category.
Barminan, yes. Okay. Miyama Shemuel Hachid Gemara says, hold on. Did Shemuel actually say that halakha is Rabbi Betera? Ve'amar Shemuel halakha kedevrei mekil be'evel. Doesn't Shemuel say that the halakha always follows the more lenient opinion? So here, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera is telling you have to do a new rip. It will be more lenient to let the guy just rip a little bit more. So why don't we follow the other opinion in the Braita? The Gemara says, Avelut lechud, kiri'ah lechud. Wow. When we're talking about mourning, when it comes to the laws of mourning, we look for the more lenient opinion. When it comes to kiri'ah, the actual act of tearing, the act of tearing does not follow the laws of the most lenient opinion automatically wins out. Okay? Let's continue.
It doesn't really matter.
No, it's its own rule. It doesn't go lenient. You follow the rule of the ripping.
Yeah, okay. Now, one way of understanding this is just that it's an exclusion. You know? I said always you go lenient. I didn't mean this one. I wasn't talking about this. But actually, a wider level of understanding of this is actually that the reason why is because the Kiryah, when do we do Kiryah? They do the Kiryah when they found out the news. Or they do the Kiryah after Burial, but before they got to the Beit Avel. So the Kiryah really, in some level, is not part of the mourning. It's not part of the Avelut. So that's why it doesn't have to go into the rule of always go lenient by Avelut. Okay. Next. Gemara says as follows.
What was the Yerushalayim and the Beit HaMikdash? What was that referencing? That you traveled?
When a person is traveling towards and they see it in its destruction, so they have to do Kiryah. Yeah, that's a mourning item. Yeah.
It's like the rabbi, hearing of the rabbi.
Says the Gemara. Okay. So now that we're talking about ripping, Arhechan Korea. Until where does the person rip? How much do you have to rip? First opinion says ad tiburo. Until tiburo means his belly button. So that's a rip from the top all the way down. Yesh omrim ad libo. Some people say from the top until the heart. Now think about that. That's not so high. Heart is right over here. You guys ripping from here to here. That's basically a tefach. Right? Afa pi she'en ra'aya ledavar. Even though it's not a proof to this, zecher ledavar, it's an allegory to it. Do you want a Gemara? We've got some Gemaras here, right?
The second shelf on the bottom.
Second shelf on the bottom.
The small one.
Even though it's not a proof, zecher ledavar, it's something that we could have a zecher to, like a commemoration of. Shnehemar, it says, "V'kir'u levavchem ve'al bigdechem." The pasuk says, "Tear your hearts and not your clothing." So what do you see? That you're going to tear your clothing until your heart. Don't tear clothing beyond heart. So if you want to know a memory, mnemonic, how to remember how much you have to tear, you tear up until the heart. Higia letiburo, right? Let's say the person was overzealous and he ripped all the way until the belly button. What's the halacha? Marchik shalosh etzbaot l'korea. He moves a level of 3 fingers away from the tear, all right? And he tears. And he tears as well. Now,
It's amazing they're so detailed on the fingers of the amount of the tear, like, right? Like that.
Yeah.
Minutia of that. Like, it's amazing. It's such a big issue. In other words, versus tearing. Just say tearing one tefa, it's good. But each level of each tearing, you know.
so, yes, but part of the reason
You're
is,
tearing for yourself. People see
no,
it.
that's true.
People to see it.
That's true.
They
But
don't
since it's a
extend
hayuv,
a little.
and it's a hayuv that's mentioned in the Torah, right? So it's more strict than the regular laws of Avelut. Because Kiryah is more strict than the Avelut part. Okay, so I want to just share with you one thing. So when the guy ripped it all the way, then he can't add to that and tear from the navel down. It's already off. So what does he do? He moves 3 fingers away and then he tears. Nitmale milfanav. Let's say Bar Minan, the guy had a bunch of different stories, and it's there's a lot of rips in the front. Machziro la'ahorav, he could turn the whole beged to his back, and then tear now in the front. Nitmale milmala. What happens if the beged has a lot of rips on the top, maybe even all the way around? Hofcho milemata. You could flip the beged upside down. Now remember, we're obviously not talking about a fitted shirt. We're talking about a robe or a long piece of material, like a shawl. Okay? So then he's able to turn it upside down and then tear what was the bottom is now the top of a tikiriya. Ve'akorea milimata umin hatzadin. What if the person ripped from the bottom up, or if he tore from the side in? Halacha is lo yatsa. Ela shekohen gadol poreh milmata. The only exception of this is that for the kohen gadol, he has a different way to rip. His ripping is where? His ripping is from the bottom of the beged. Okay? Now, what's the reason why the Kohen Gadol's ripping is from the bottom? So you see over here the 5 wide lines into the tiny Rashi? Yeah? You see it? 6 wide lines. Ela shekohen Gadol. Right? It's right here on the bottom of the page, right there. Ella. See it? Shuf. Right there. 6 lines in. Ella shekohen gadol. What is the kohen? The kohen rips from the bottom. Bigadav milimata. V'lo mipnei shehu pirima. And not because it follows the laws of pirima, which the pasuk says, their clothing they shall not tear. Da katuv, because the pasuk says, ubegadav lo yifrom, and his clothing he should not be porem. Ela mipnei agmat nefesh, to express his grief. The Kohen Gadol rips. He can't rip in the other way, so he rips from the bottom. So it's not a kiryah. It's not pirima. It's not any of these things. But it expresses his agmat nefesh. And therefore, that's what the Kohen does, to be able to express his sadness. Okay? So effectively...
Oh, it's not categorized with the rippings.
That's the point. The Torah said he's not allowed to rip.
Unhappy.
I told you no one's allowed to rip, except for the Kohen Gadol. So it's not that the Kohen Gadol is ripping. The point is, it's not a ripping. That's why the Kohen Gadol is allowed to do it. Because it says, Begadav lo yifrom.
Well, normally Kohen Gadol doesn't rip.
The Kohen Gadol is not allowed, doesn't rip.
Even if he's in
When he's in his time of service. Kohen could not be in his cycle. But the Kohen Gadol is always on. Yeah, okay? Says the Gemara, Pligu ba Rav Matna Amar
Kohen
Ukva.
Gadol is only during the Beit HaMikdash period.
Yeah, there's no Kohen Gadol outside.
Only
Only during the temple.
during
Yeah.
the temple. So this morning is it?
This halakha is for that.
halakha for that.
Hopefully for very soon. Inshallah. Aaron Kohen is coming again soon, but it's not even going to be relevant because no one will die. So, so the halakha would be relevant if someone would pass, but people are not going to pass away after Mashiach. Peligu ba, Rav Matna or Mar Ukva. Rav Matna and Mar Ukva have a machloket. Okay? V'tarvayu mishmei da'avua de Shmuel v'Levi. Both of them hold their halakha because of what Shmuel's father taught, and also Levi, the contemporary of Shmuel. Chad Amar, one of them said, we don't know which, Kol Shiv'a Korea. Anytime there that a person is hearing about this second tragedy during the Shiva, Kol Shiv'a Korea, he has to rip again. Le'achar Shiva, if he hears about the second passing after Shiva is over, so on day 8, Mosif, then he just needs to add. V'chad Amar, so one says, during the Shiva, you have to tear a new one. After the Shiva, you could just extend it. V'chad Amar, Kol Shiloshim Korea. During and throughout the entire Shiloshim, if there's another death, he rips a new beged, because he didn't finish the morning of the first one. Okay? Le'acha Shiloshim.
Again on the same beged, you mean?
Rips again on the same beged, but a new tear.
A new tear.
The first, but La'acha Shiloshim, after 30 days are up, okay, Mosif. Then he adds, since the morning is over, now it's like a new ripping. Even if he just rips a little, so then already that achieves this halakha. So there's a machloket in terms of extending. When is the halakha that you're able to extend? One opinion says after Shiva. One opinion says after Shloshim. Mat kifla Rabbi Zera asked the question. Manda Mar Kol Shiva Korea, the opinion that says that during all the 7 days you tear a new kiryah, which really is everybody. Right? So what's he asking on? He's not asking that you said on Shiva Korea. He's asking on the fact that because the other guy also says that. Because he says you go till 30, you still have to rip new. So who holds you have to rip new? Everybody. So what's he asking? He's asking not on the fact that you have to rip new. He's asking on the fact that you have to rip new until 7. So he's asking really on the discrepancy between 7 and 30. The Amar Kol Shiva Korea, Amai, why is the halacha? Why are you holding that? De lo nitan lisholelo. Since at that point, during the Shiva, you're not able to fix it, right? So ripping or extending the rip is not like anything new, right? Because it had to be ripped already. But once Shiva's over and I'm allowed to fix it, so continuing the rip and leaving it torn is like I have a whole tear. You understand the logic?
You weren't going to have a tear.
Since I'm allowed to fix it, so really I don't have to keep it torn. Keeping it torn is the same as tearing it. If that's the reason, that's your reasoning, right? Elahada amar mar, then what does it mean that when we said the halakha, haisha sholalto lealtar? Remember we said when a woman is finished with the tear, she's able to close it up right away. Why? Because of modesty, right? So a woman is allowed to repair the tear even during the 7 days. Why? Because we said modesty. If that's the case, says Rabbi Zera, it's a genius question. That means that the law with regards to a woman should be that she's able to just extend it even during 7 days. Yes. Because if your logic is based on when you fix it up, at that point, it's considered as if leaving it there is torn. So a woman should be able to extend even during the Shiva and not need to rip new, according to that logic.
Like one step below it.
And you said this without specifying men versus women, which means that you're including a woman as well. The Gemara answer is true. Hata mishum kavod ishahu. The reason is not that you're allowed to fix it. So it's as if there's no tear. Really, you're not allowed to fix it. Since the laws of modesty dictate that she needs to close it, so even though it has to stay ripped right now, she's allowed to close it regardless. So you can't count that as if the item is ripped, as if the item is fixed, because the item is not fixed. But we made a special exception for the modesty.
So why wouldn't they just make a measurement for the woman?
What do you mean?
The rip is
yeah.
So you don't run into the modesty issue.
No, we allowed the woman to close it completely. We allowed the woman to close it completely because of modesty.
They're not like, they can make a separate thing for the woman, like a less rip or a small
Rip
tiny
it, tear
rip.
it, turn it to the back and put a sweater on
They
it.
would avoid that.
But one second, we're missing the point here.
No, I got the idea.
When you're allowed to fix it, so then therefore my choice in not fixing it is really me declaring more mourning.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
When I don't have a choice not to fix it because of modesty, it's not up to me whether or not I want to fix it. It's not that there's no mourning. No. It's not that this item is allowed to be fixed. Modesty overrules it. Okay. So she's still mourning even with it sewn up. Right. So therefore you can't extend to any kulot on this because it's as if it's as if it was sewn up. Or she's allowed to sew it up. Okay, let's continue. Okay. The Gemara, that's the Gemara's answer. Now let's go to the other opinion. Other opinion said that up until 30 days, you have to tear a new tear. Okay? Amai, what's the reason? The reason is the lo nitan la'achoto, because you're not allowed to mend it completely. So before we were talking about l'sholelo, you're allowed to fix it like with crude stitches. Okay? So the Gemara's question was on the fact that you could fix it crudely from 7 days, which means for all intents and purposes you have a closed beged. Now the Gemara says, Why did you pick 30? Because at the 30-day mark, you're able to mend it completely. Lachoto. Ela, if that's the reason, la'aviv u'li'imo de'lo nitan lachato le'olam. When it comes to a father and mother, where you're not allowed to fix it completely forever, hachinami, you should say also that you're not allowed to continue the tear. Why? Because if it's based on the fact that after 30 days you're allowed to completely close it, on a father and mother, you're not allowed to completely close it. So if that's the case, you should never be allowed to rip it. Now, I don't know why we're not answering this Gemara and saying, you're right. On a father and mother's rip, you can't extend. We already learned that before, remember?
Yeah, separate category.
Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera said, separate category. So why didn't the Gemara answer, you're right, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera?
There must be a reason.
So I have one reason. The Gemara wants an answer even if you don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. So Gemara's answer is not dependent on learning the Braita according to Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. So whenever we can answer you an answer which is a more complete answer, it's relevant and true according to everybody, that's the answer we're going to go with. Right. Okay? Gemara answers, Hata mishum kavod aviv imo. There, it's the reason why you can't fix it is not because it's not fixable because the morning is past. It's not the reason. The reason, extra kavod. So really, the reason why after 30, even on a father and mother, you're able to extend. In other words, according to the opinion that does not follow Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera, right? You'd be able to do that, but the reason is because of their honor. It's not because of the fact that the mourning is still continued. Okay? All right. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan. All right, we got to finish here. It's 11. All right, we're up to 26b3
Very bottom.
at the bottom. Tanu Rabbanan. Okay. Say there. Baruch Hanei Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.